Welcome to the Impact My Life podcast, where we try to give you some self-defense for life. I'm super excited about today's guest. It's one of my old friends, Ralph Simone, who's an executive coaching professional in Syracuse, New York. Before I start digging into questions, I'm just have a quick intro for people who haven't heard of you. Ralph L. Simone, a husband, father, and business owner, is an executive coach and community leader based in Syracuse, New York. He embodies the mantra, slow down to go faster, which is not only the title of his TEDx talk, but also the principle guiding his work at Emergent, a consulting firm he co-founded. An avid reader with a black belt in karate, Simone's commitment to personal and professional development is evident. His diverse leadership experiences have cultivated a unique perspective, which he shares in his new book, which will be out when?
I hope the end of this month. I'll be talking to the publisher this afternoon at 3:00.
Awesome. Which is also titled Slow Down to Go Faster. Before we get into philosophies, that type of thing, I kind of wanted to start at the beginning because I remember years ago when we knew each other at the martial arts studio, I remember you were an executive coach even back then. You were doing coaching for different companies, and now it's a little bit more in the mainstream as a career. But back then, to me, I thought it was kind of a rare career and kind of a cool career. What originally got you into it?
Well, that's a great question. Actually, a friend that I worked at Cooper's and Library, which is now PwC, I was doing consulting, and he was after me to get into coaching, executive coaching. And he was so persistent, but your insight around it was very rare back then. I remember when I told my father I was going to add coaching to my business, he goes, "What sport?" Right? And I said, "Well, the sport of corporate leadership."
Yeah.
But it was very new at that time.
Yeah.
It was, in the early 90s, I think 1992, 1993.
And to me, I always admired it because in those days we were always reading Zig Ziglar and people like that. So to meet somebody that actually did it for real in real life was always pretty exciting for me.
Well, now 30 years later, I may have a book like Zig Ziglar.
There you go. Would this be your first book, or did you have
This will
one?
be the first real book. I have written a couple smaller things that have been published. One was called Making It Stick, but it was a very short book. And then I did what was called the Daily Retweet.
Okay.
And so I was on Twitter for a long time, and I took my best 100 tweets and I turned those into a book. But this is the first real book, and it really took my son's assistance to get it off the ground.
So you kind of helped co-write it, direct it. And,
he did even more than that, because when I was working on it many years ago, he was home from college on a break, and I'm at the dining room table. I'm grinding it out, and he said, "Dad, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm working on my book." I said, "I read that if you're going to write a book, you got to write every day."
Yeah.
And he goes, "You look miserable," and I was. So he asked me to read what I wrote, and he's reading it, and he says, "That doesn't really reflect your philosophy." He goes, "I've heard you speak on this topic."
20 years now.
He goes, "This is not that." And he goes, "Would you mind an idea?" And I said, "Look, I'm wide open." He goes, "You're a better speaker than writer. Why don't you talk it out and then use AI to transcribe it?" And that's how I got the first draft. I mean, I was stuck.
Yeah.
So
That's a great idea.
So he was coaching the coach at that point.
Yeah. So you came full circle. He did a good job as a dad if he's coaching the coach.
I'll take that. Thank you.
So obviously you're still super engaged in what you do, excited about what you do. What's your favorite part of your job? To call it a job, profession, calling. What's your favorite part?
Seeing people grow and seeing the aha moment where they look at something from a completely different perspective. And when they get into action, right? We talk about helping people step into their greatness or into their potential. I mean, that's what lights me up. I was with a guy the other day, and he goes, "You don't seem to be new at this," which is a nice way of saying you're kind of an old guy. He goes, "But you seem excited about it still." I said, "I am."
Yeah.
Because when you can engage with people, smart people who have even more potential, what greater gift?
Yeah. Plus, when you're dealing with people, and constant with people, I always say is change.
Absolutely.
So people change. So you've had to grow and evolve as people have grown and evolved.
You got to stay relevant. Like I tell my kids, I had kids late in life, and older father. My goal in life is to stay relevant.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you're going to stay relevant is keep learning.
Yeah. So when I knew you way back when, I believe you were a solo practitioner.
I was.
Yeah. And then now it's, you have your own company, Emergent. How how did that come about? What does Emergent do? What do we need to know about Emergent?
Well, emergent means coming into being.
Mm-hmm.
So the root of the word's kind of cool. Now, we had a rebranding done with a marketing firm about 10 years ago, and I loved it because of what it meant, because that's really what we're all about.
Yeah.
Helping people, teams, and organizations come into being, their authentic self, to perform at levels higher than they thought they could, to scale their organization. So our focus is executive coaching with a real lens on leadership development, because the way to scale any organization is through the leadership. And if you can get a change in thinking and behavior at the leadership level, you'll get a change in the culture. You'll get a change in performance.
Wow. Now, do you work mostly with local companies or regional companies, or, how do you find your clients? Who are some of the people you work with?
It's changed a little bit and it actually changed post-COVID. So I would tell you we were always have been a regional company. And now when we first met, I was doing international work, but that was for a local company that had places, carrier that had places overseas. So we're really, if you took a 50-mile radius around Syracuse, that's really where most of our clients are. We're doing a little work in Albany right now, but places like SRC, Mohawk Global, which is over near the airport, Infocon, often engineering companies, technical companies, but we do work for accounting firms, car dealerships, which things that weren't on our radar. Although our geography has grown post-COVID.
Yeah.
We actually, and I almost feel guilty about this, our business grew during 2020. And for a couple of reasons. One is that people could see the training could be delivered effectively remotely.
Yeah.
So they didn't have the travel expense.
Yeah.
And then you could reach your footprint, you could reach wherever.
Yeah.
But we're still, we still do mostly regional work.
Yeah. Which in this day and age is pretty cool that they can have you live and more personal.
I like it
all
better.
Have to be online.
I think we got pretty good online. I think we got pretty good doing the even I had one very successful hybrid event where half the people were in the room and half were out of the room. It was a margin killer because of the technology you needed. Yeah. But I like being live.
Yeah.
I like being in front of people because I think it's more real. You can really connect at a deeper level.
That's funny. In our business, we had the same thing. During COVID, we were teaching via Zoom.
Right.
And then when we came back, some parents still weren't comfortable coming back in person. So we were running Zoom and a live class. So you had to be able to teach both and not have the people be bored on the screen, but also be paying attention to the people that were live. So
I'm curious.
Special set of skills.
That is very special. That is hard as heck to do.
Yeah. It was fun. And I tell people all the time, the end of February, was it 2019? Yeah. 2019, 2020. Yeah. My biggest problem at the end of February was we were down in Florida shark fishing and the sharks kept breaking our line. They're biting through our leader. That was the greatest problem in my life. And we're watching, them talk about COVID and how it was in Italy. And we're like, oh, okay. And then 2 weeks later, my business is shut down. So for me, you grew. For me, it was an exciting time because I had to grow personally. So, it kind of got you out of the cyclical, mundane, what you usually do. And you had to kind of reinvent. So for me, it was an exciting time.
I skimmed over the worry part.
Yeah.
Because we had probably $500,000 of business booked in-person training or coaching, all of which could have gone away.
Yeah.
And fortunately, maybe because of the trust we had or the relationships we built, people said, if you guys think you can do this by Zoom, we'll hang in there with you.
Yeah. Well, they probably still wanted it done. People wanted to training. They needed an outlet. They needed something. So.
You needed a way to connect with people and still do, right? I mean, that's,
one of our most popular things that we did during Zoom was we would just, after classes, we would just leave it on and the kids and then unmute them all and they would just talk. And go back and forth. So we'd leave it on for a half an hour and just kind of moderate, but they gave the kids time to talk and show each other stuff. And, and some people needed that
social beings.
Connection.
We need that level of connection somehow, some way.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear you talk about the leadership side. For me in my business, the martial arts school, one of the programs that I have that I'm most proud of and that I think really benefits people that I probably don't do a good enough job of promoting, but the product is great. Is about 5 years ago we started a leadership program, which sounds kind of vague, and really what it is just a standalone class that systematically helps kids first get comfortable speaking in front of a group.
That's great.
With confidence, and then from there being able to actually demonstrate leadership skills and get a team from point A to point B. So all in all, probably a 3-year process to get them like really, really good. But for me, like it's been really exciting because again, it's something new, but it's also something that benefits them that's beyond kicking and punching.
I love the fact that you're dealing with two of the things that many people and companies are most challenged by.
Mm-hmm.
Public speaking in front of a group of people, and building teams.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of groups. There's a lot of people who are good independently, but interdependently. And the best time to get people is early,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to retraining them. So I love the fact that you're doing that. That's exciting.
Kind of like learning a language. It's always easier when you're young.
Yeah. And if you get over the, and I think this, like public speaking, I think it's certainly a learned skill, but I think people kind of learn to be nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And, it takes practice, but, you just got to, and the more you practice, the more comfortable you get. And the only way to do it is to do it. Right?
Yeah.
You can't just read about it. You actually have to talk in front of people, and maybe even have a couple of failures where it doesn't go well, to continue doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. At the very beginning, they're saying exactly what we want them to say. It starts it's so basic: set, courtesy. Starts with 2 words: set, courtesy. And then from there on, it grows and it builds. And you can see when it goes from, them saying what we tell them to say, to suddenly you're on your own speaking, to suddenly now you're not just on your own speaking, but you have to accomplish something and teach them something. It's pretty gratifying for me to see the growth. And I wish I had something like that when I was younger. It would have saved me some time.
Absolutely.
and some stress.
Absolutely. I mean, I teach it now, but I can remember as in business being very nervous just to say my name in front of a group of people. So I think it's a great skill, and I'm glad that you're doing it.
Yeah. How would you say, because you obviously deal with a lot of people's employees, how has leadership changed? How have people changed from, say the beginning of your career to now, or even just from, 5 years ago to now? How are things different? What are the challenges? What are some things that, because when we do this, it's kind of a dual purpose. This podcast it's going to be the parents listening to it. So I want them to find benefit for their kids because they're trying to raise the best kids that they can be. But also if they can find benefit for themselves, that'll help them in their life, their work life, their personal life. So how do you think leadership has changed? How have employees changed?
So leaders and employees need to be way more adaptable and agile today. Mm-hmm. And we define agility as flexibility with purpose. The pace and complexity of change is so fast and getting faster each subsequent year. So whatever got you here won't get you there. Mm-hmm. We've got to be constantly learning. So one of the things that we see, and I see this more in younger people, they have a lot more agility, a lot more adaptability, but that's going to be an ongoing life skill. Mm-hmm. The game changes. I was not slow to technology, but, can you imagine, at 60, how old I was when the COVID, 63 years old, not being open to learning Zoom or Teams, we would have been done, right? You've got to learn how to do it. You got to learn how to manage the breakout group and mute people and do all those things. And none of that is really hard. I think it's a mindset.
Yeah.
And so I think that the mindsets really are changing. I think you could get by years ago when I first started working with leaders and developing leaders. You could get by kind of being a reluctant leader, changing slowly. Mm-hmm. I know that's not the case anymore. Yeah. Life and your team and your organization will pass you by. So that's one of the biggest changes that I see.
Mm-hmm. How about misconceptions? What do you think some misconceptions about what leadership is, what it really is, and what the reality is?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and I've been battling this a long time, is that leaders are charismatic. Mm-hmm. They can be. They're dynamic. But I think leaders can be very stoic. They can be very quiet. Mm-hmm. I think leaders have to have vision. I think there's a certain amount of emotional intelligence leaders have to have, the ability to read their own emotions and the emotions in others, because if you don't read it, you can't adjust to it. But I think that's a misconception that, quiet people can't be good leaders.
Yeah.
Like these extroverts. And I think the thing that's done leadership a disservice is that, people think of famous leaders.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of quiet leaders in your community, in your neighborhood. And leadership is about being authentic. It's about having some self-selected values that you guide your life by. It's helping people. I think one of the things that I am concerned about with current leadership in the country is this lack of servant leadership. We need to unify people, not divide people, regardless of what party you're in.
Yeah.
And I think it's the servant leadership that's really, really important.
Yeah. You know what I've found too is the leaders that I really respect, they really listen well. Like I've noticed that with you when we first sat down. There's several people in my life, but they really listen. Like you can tell, like you're the only thing right there, and they're paying attention to every single word and thinking about what you're saying, and that always impresses me.
I think that's a key skill. I think, and I think it's the least developed, least practiced. You'll hear this with athletes about being present, right? Staying in the moment. We would be so much better off in everything we did if we just stayed in the moment that we're in.
Yeah.
Not thinking back in the past or not getting ahead of ourselves of what we're going to say next. I was coached by a guy years ago, Jerry Stocking, and he made an impact on me in this way. He said, when you're in front of a group, you're interesting when they don't know what you're going to say next. You're most interesting when you don't know what you're going to say next, because you're in the moment. You know the content, but you're not so rehearsed. And I remember when I first did training in front of groups, so agenda dependent, right? Because you were new.
Oh, yeah.
And the agenda was your crutch.
Yeah.
Now I can do training. I did 3 days out Skaneateles Lake. I had nothing in front of me.
Yeah.
And
so you've kind of gone from practitioner to like guru almost in a way, because you can just do it.
Or experience anyway. I don't
know.
Go
guru.
All right. I'll take that. Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Yes, sir.
But this idea that it's at the ready and whatever you need will come up in that moment if you're paying attention. I tell my kids this about being present. I said, a good waiter or waitress can save a bad meal, but a great meal can't save bad service.
Yeah.
And good service is all about being present and listening, paying attention.
Yeah. We had we were away for the last couple of weeks, and I got to say, and it might have just been our experience, but the level of service that we got in Italy versus France, like some of these waiters in Italy, it was like you're part of their family. Like they were just there every single second. You were the only thing that mattered to them. And obviously the food was great, but it was even better because you just felt like, oh man, I want to go back to that restaurant because you felt like you mattered.
The connection,
and you were seen.
The connection. Yeah. And I think part of leadership is seeing and hearing your people. People want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to feel like they're making a contribution.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to move into time management now.
Sure.
So that's another area for you, right? That you can kind of speak about with us.
It's probably one of the few areas that I might be as bold to refer to myself as an expert.
Okay. Excellent.
And I'm reluctant to do that because I don't want to stop learning, right? Because there's, everything changes, but it's an area I got a little bit of energy and interest in.
Awesome. Well, let's just start right at the beginning. What do people get wrong about time management?
First of all, I think that you can manage time. What you can manage is energy, right? Time keeps going, and so I think that's the fundamental paradigm shift is we really want to help people get better at managing their energy as well as prioritizing. I think what people get wrong is they try and get more and more done in less and less time. That's a fool's errand.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of books written about this, but we really want to focus in on the things that matter most, which requires slowing down. It requires intentionality. I have
is that kind of like the 80-20 rule where 80% of your results come from 20% of the tasks, that type of
absolutely
idea? Yeah.
Absolutely. So if let's use that. And so if I'm looking at what I want to have as results by the end of the week, what are the 20% of the tasks that are going to get that for me? I think the other mistake people make is they don't do weekly or bi-weekly planning. They plan their day. You're already in the thick of thin things when you're in daily planning. Daily planning is not bad, but get out ahead of it. So I think it's the focus on managing energy, not time, being crystal clear about what matters most to you, your focus areas, your essentials. I have a little guideline, 3, 5, 6, 8. What are the 3 important things, essential things I get the pleasure of doing today? 3.
I see what you did there. Pleasure of doing.
Yeah, 3. No more than 5 unique events in any given day. This is a unique event. My board meeting tonight is a unique event. Right? 6 weeks vacation. Some employers don't like when I say that, but you've got to have time out of the business to bring a clarity and focus back to the business, and then 8 hours of sleep. I'm not quite there yet, but I dialed in last night. I had almost 7 hours, which has a positive impact on heart rate variability and focus and attention and energy during the day. So 3, 5, 6, 8. Be intentional. You're driving. Don't let everybody else drive. And it really goes back to the book that I first met you around, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Begin with the end in mind, but begin with the end in mind around the week, the year, the quarter, 3 years, the meeting, this segment. Right? Be very intentional and then make choices that align with those intentions.
Yeah, that's great. How does your new book, go slow to, I'm totally missing the.
That's all right.
Slow down to go faster. How does that figure in with time management?
I think the slowing down to go faster is taking the time to really reflect and contemplate what's important to you, to take the time to think about what are your high leverage goals, to take the time between stimulus and response to choose your action, to make sure. One of the first things that people give up is exercise. In making sure that you're blocking and holding time to go to the dojo, to work out, to walk, to run, right? These are the things that are not urgent, but they are important. They are important to not only how you feel, but how you do what you do. And the title.
I remember that quadrant, urgent and important.
The title actually comes from martial arts. So it comes from a sparring match between Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee.
Okay.
And they were sparring, and you're a martial artist expert, right? So you know that probably inarguably Lee was the quicker of the two guys. But he was very frustrated in one of the sparring matches with Chuck Norris that he wasn't able to block his kicks. His punches weren't landing.
Well, Chuck Norris won the U.S. Open with just a side kick. So
he
did a pretty good one.
He was good. But and he was lamenting afterwards. And Chuck said, you got to slow it down. You were too fast. And when you're too fast, and this is like the flow state. When athletes are in the flow state, everything seems to slow down. When you get quick, things get sloppy. It's not as precise. And so that's where the title of the book, Slow Down to Go Faster. In fact, on my first degree black belt little trophy that my wife got for me, that's on the placard.
No way.
Slow down to go faster.
You sure she just wasn't calling you slow?
I'm not sure. She was quicker than I, so it could have had. That's
right. She got her black belt too.
Sooner and was better, so it could have been
I forgot she got her black belt too, so you guys are a black belt family.
Yeah, everybody, including the kids.
That's
including
awesome.
The kids.
Same with mine. Very safe family.
We hope so.
No, I like that the 3, 4, 5, 7. No, it's 3, 4, 5.
It can be be any number you want. So those are my numbers. But you might be, your 3 might be a 4.
The problem with doing this is I always have to go back and re-listen to them a couple times.
Sure.
Because people tell me such great things that I'm like, I'm glad the viewer benefits, but I need to go back too because it's, helpful to me. But what's another time management technique that, has helped, that you've helped clients with?
Activity filtering. So if you're going to put more in, what are you going to take out? I think that's another problem. High achievers, particularly type A, they think just keep loading it up. What comes out? You got to make some room. So activity filtering answers the question, what can I delegate, automate, innovate, or eliminate? And eliminate might be for now.
Yeah.
You might not eliminate it forever. One of the things that prevents leaders from going to the next level, their unwillingness to let go of things. So that's the delegation.
That was a problem with me early on.
I think it's a problem that is a societal meme. So we reward expertise. We reward people making their contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that feels good. And so now we say, well, we don't want you doing that anymore. We want you to develop others to do that. That's easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah. It took me a while.
Yeah. I think it takes a lot of people a while.
Yeah. But now it's wonderful because I see what a good job they do with things, and and I'm so happy that they're growing, and I don't have to do everything.
And I think that's the right lens. And then when that frees you up, you can either have more free time, you can work on other more strategic things,
Mm-hmm.
things that may be more impactful.
Yeah. Pun intended. Anything I'm missing on time management that I should be asking?
So we call it success planning, but weekly planning I think is good. The 3-5-6-8. I call it blocking and holding. Blocking and holding is a penalty in football, but in the area of time management, you need to do it. So blocking time, right? Actually committing to that time. I treat every appointment, this one included, but any appointment I make, like I would treat a doctor's appointment where I might really be in trouble with
Mm-hmm.
with a life-threatening thing. And so when I put something in my calendar, I'm committed to it.
Yeah.
And the only thing that would change it is a personal emergency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people do not use Outlook or whatever technology to time block, even time block for working out or for reading or for vacation, not just an appointment calendar.
Mm-hmm.
This is really time blocking is about committing to things that are going to propel you forward towards those things that are most important to you in your life.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah, I think we covered that those three. I think get out ahead of it though. Even plan a couple weeks in advance,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you got to be willing to say no. I have a to-do list, but I also have a not to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to get a lot of criticism from my neighbors, mostly men, the neighborhood I used to live in, because they said, "What do you do?" I said, "What do you mean? Is it a job?" They go, "No, you don't seem to do any work around the house." I said, "Well, no, because I don't enjoy it." They're painting their house and cutting their grass. I said, I offload that. And it's not a financial situation. It's just those are tasks that I would rather not do.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm not good at them, or somebody else is better at them, right? And so, don't be afraid to take some things off your list.
Yeah. I know that's something for me, spinning too many plates.
Yeah. It's a curse of competency. When you can get good at a lot of things, the tendency is to try to do all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And, to some extent, it shows you your upper limit. But I think then what happens is you become unaware that, man, maybe I got too much going on and I'm not
You start missing things.
Yeah, and you're not seeing things with fidelity. Or, people, you won't hear the intuitive nudges about what might be a better choice for you because there's no space for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you are somebody watching, we'll obviously promote your book and hopefully a ton of people buy it for you. But if
3 million or more, that's the goal.
There you go.
Going to reach 3 million or more. So I don't know how many we're reaching right now, but
it's going to be a lot.
I thought so.
This is a banger. People watch this podcast.
I thought so. That's why that's why I made the choice to be on the show.
So if somebody wanted to start implementing the idea of slow down to go faster, this week, what would be their first steps?
I'll tell you the first step, and this is a step I took. Do not hit the ground running when you get up in the morning. Don't have your phone. If some parents are on call, I get, but if you can, don't have your phone right next to you. Make the phone the third or fourth thing you look at.
Mm-hmm.
Ease into your day. I learned this from my dogs and cats. They ease into the day. They stretch. They don't hit the ground running. I spend the first 2 hours of my day meditating, reading, yoga before I pick the phone up. Now I get up early.
Mm-hmm.
People may not have that. If you got If you got a lot of young kids, school age, you may not have that time, but intentionally ease into the day. The other thing I would say is build strategic pauses between segments. Don't go back to back to back. If you looked at my calendar, you would rarely find back to back to back appointments because I got to get myself reset for the next thing. And again, some people will say, well, I'm not calling the shot. Where you have some opportunity, where you have the most discretionary time, take the discretion to just kind of ease into the day. Enjoy the cup of coffee. I don't eat in the car. Now, part of that is I'm very particular about my cars, but don't eat on the run.
Yeah.
Sit down, have some breakfast. Meals are not just for sustenance, they're for relationship building. My bet is that the meals that you were in Italy and in France, they were probably longer.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot more relationship building. And I think we not everybody, but I think many of us have lost that.
Yeah.
We used to have mandatory Sunday. You had unless you were out of town, you had to be home for Sunday dinner. And we would talk about, what went well in the week. What are you excited about? But really, and we would draw it out, spend a little bit more time, not just be in such a hurry. I think eat lunch. Yeah. I tell people, I don't have time. Eat lunch, get out from behind your desk. So these are low hanging fruit, but they really help us to kind of get the pace and the cadence. And it's slow down to go faster. It's not slow down to go slower.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the idea is to get to the destination faster.
Those sound like easy ones to implement, but they seem like they would have a huge effect.
I think
if you do it.
I think yes and yes. And I wanted to come back to something you said, which I thought was brilliant. You start with the presentation with two words, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baby steps. And I used to bristle at that, but we want to get people into action. I think it was I think it was Tony Robbins, right? Action creates motivation. You want to get people in action. And the easiest way to get them in action is have them do something small and simple.
Yeah. And even with 2 words, set, courtesy. Guess what we can work on? We can work on eye contact.
Yeah.
We can work on, how loud they're being, their vocal control. We can work on how clear they're talking. We can talk about how sharp their body is, how fast they're moving. Like there's a lot you can do with 2 words.
So you baseline it. And then that's where they started. And then, you can sharpen it all up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a great example. Great example.
So when does the book come out?
Well, today at 3:00, I'm going to find out for sure.
Okay. When it does come out, will be best place to get it? Would it be your website? Would it be Amazon?
So I've got it's going to come out on my website. I've got a separate landing page called Slow Down to Go Faster.
Okay.
That I've got a publicist working on. Also through Amazon, and it will be an ebook, an Audible, and a paperback.
Nice.
But I think
if we buy it on your site, will we get some cool bonuses from you?
Oh, sure. I just don't know what they are yet.
I always like that though.
Yeah.
I have a couple authors where they know I'm going to buy. And so I always get their emails, and there's one author, he writes like military books, and he shoots like a bullet through the title page and like signs it and does it as a fundraiser for like small,
nice.
Small independent booksellers. So I'm like, every year I'm on that list, and the ones that offer little bonuses is like, okay, yep, I'll buy that one too. My wife hates our office because it's just all books, total fire hazard.
well, one of the things. So my son and I have 2 things in common: lousy penmanship and our love of books.
Yeah.
And my wife said, "What are we doing with all these books?" I said, "They're not going anywhere."
Nope.
In fact, I found something really. I reread a lot of them.
Oh yeah.
Because you never step into the same river twice. And rereading stuff that I read 20 years ago, because I'm in a different place, age and stage, it hits you in a different way. And again, the learning piece for me, and I read for application, not completion. So I'm looking for ideas to drive my effectiveness. I'm looking for ideas to be a better presenter. I'm looking for ideas for our podcasts.
I think that's a good, not to interrupt you, but I actually love that you just said that, because I notice usually I'm reading one fiction and one nonfiction at the same time. And sometimes I find with the nonfiction ones, it drags because like I may not be interested in the entire book. So taking that pressure off myself to finish every single one and just kind of take what I need out of it and go with that. That's actually like a really good idea. And I never thought about that before.
So
say that again. It was read for
application, not completion. Yeah. Declare it complete when you got what you got out. Yeah. My son will say, Dad, that's how you beat the system. That's how you read so many books, because you call it complete after you read the first chapter. I said, if I got what I needed out of the first chapter, I'm done.
Yeah. It counts.
Yeah. A funny story about a book I was reading. I can't even remember the book. I read a chapter. I'm waiting out in the lobby for a coaching meeting, and I get in the meeting, and the guy brings something up that was relevant to what I read. I said, let's try something. And he goes, oh, this is great. How long have you been working with that? I said, about 8 minutes. I said, he goes, what? I said, I just read about it.
Yeah.
In the lobby. And I thought, well, what the heck? Now is the time, right? Staying present, trotted it out. It worked. I said, let me ask you, is it any less impactful because I just read about it?
Yeah.
If I said 50 years, would that have been more impressive?
Yeah, right.
It might have, but if it works, it works. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And that's the key. I think that's where a lot of people fail, is they fail to take that action. They read, they study, but the implementation isn't always there. I know for me, that was something I had to work on.
I think there's a perfectionism sometimes gets into that when you're a high achiever.
Yeah.
We use a word at home and in our business, experiment. We want to be massive experimenters. And the thing about an experiment, you don't know how it's going to turn out. And the worst thing you're going to do is learn something. That's the worst thing.
The gentleman I was telling you about earlier, my mentor in Rhode Island, he has, I don't keep track, maybe 12 schools now. He's the one that helped me develop the leadership program. And he's always amazed me because he hasn't taught a class since like the early 90s. He's kind of at that visionary level, but super involved. I mean, he's involved in every aspect of it, but the big thing about him is he'll blow up the entire business every 6 months. He'll just completely change huge portions of it every 6 months just because he has an idea and he's willing to experiment. If they don't like it, they go back. And if they like it, they keep it. And it's amazing in that large of an organization. He's willing to test things out so much.
He's a disruptor.
Yeah.
My guess is that some of them are really breakthroughs, innovations, and then some don't work. Right.
Yeah. But some work. He's so smart.
Yeah. People are afraid, I think. And I get it. I mean, you want to be just right, but try it out, see what happens. I mean, life is messy.
Yeah.
And you can't really advance if you're not okay with getting in the mat. I remember you guys used to tell me, if you want to be a good sparrer, you got to be willing to get hit.
Yeah.
So I really was never a good sparrer because I didn't like being hit. Right. But I mean, if you're going to hit
not quilting class.
Yeah. I mean, you got to take one to give one, right? I mean, if you're going to get in a little close, you're going to get hit. And so you got to be willing for some things not to work.
Yeah.
That's how you learn what does work.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? What did I miss? What else were you hoping to share? Any final thoughts for our listeners?
Now, I think one of the things I would tell you is that identify a couple of areas where you would benefit from slowing down, mm-hmm. whether it's a longer meal with your kids or your significant other, whether it's more time in meetings, just play around with one or two things. And the worst thing that can happen is that you'll learn something new and maybe what not to do, but you're in the game, right? Let's play it.
Yeah.
You're in the game. Let's play it.
It's our only go round.
Yeah. As far as we know. Right?
Yeah.
As far as we know.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, Ralph. And thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Jason.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.